employment, or commercial disputes. ADR is now offered through the Nassau County Bar Association. Find out more about how ADR can help resolve your dispute by calling 516-747-4070 or visit nassaubar.org.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Secrets of Success. I'm your host, Bill Duran. Today we're speaking with Greg Thompson, author of The Master Coach. Greg, I was just thinking, when you have one of your training sessions, can you take us behind the doors a little bit? Some of the things that you observe and maybe even that surprises you? Just kind of give us a quick overview as if we were peeking in the window a few times a day.
Sure. Thank you. I guess the one thing that we have learned over the years is that you can't learn to coach by reading a book. And as proud as I am of the book, The Master Coach, and it really synthesizes the things that I've learned from my wonderful clients over the last 20 years. You really only can learn to coach by coaching. And so we don't even do any role playing. What we do is we give our workshop participants some tools and some approaches and concepts, many that I've spoken about here, and we have them engage in real-time coaching conversations, and they get some feedback when they completed that conversation on their personal impact as a coach. And so if you peeked in the door, you'd probably see some men and women in coaching conversations, in real conversations, in intense conversations as well. We also equip them with some tools, some questions they might want to ask, some pathways they might want to walk down in the coaching conversations.
Now, good teachers always know that if you're teaching something in math, this is where the 90% of the people are going to have trouble grasping it. This is the answer they're going to give to a certain question in literature, etc. Do you find certain things keep coming up? I don't mean mountains, but molehills that you have to overcome, or that when people try it, like does the employee go, "You're being nice to me"? Am I getting fired? Or, the real world things that happen when they start trying to be a master coach.
Yeah, well, one of the most prevalent things is that they end up working too hard, and with the best of intentions, they try so hard to have these great coaching conversations. Is that what they do? Is they really revert to their previous behaviors. So they try to solve the other person's problem for them. They try to dominate the conversation. They work really hard. They try to have the great ideas. They try to find a path to seize the opportunity. See, the challenge is that most of the men and women in that classroom would have earned the right to be in that classroom because they worked harder, were smarter, more committed, more loyal, more of everything than other people. So they get to these supervisor roles, then they bring that into the coaching. This is one of the hardest things for that leader to do, is to make the shift and to see that that's not their role. Their role is to be a catalyst for other people to work hard, other people to have the great idea, other people to solve the problem, seize the opportunity. And that really is one of the biggest struggles for the leader today, is to make that shift away from the person who has the great idea to the person who's the catalyst for the great idea.
Now, when I was reading your book, I made a note to myself. I said I put a note on my own notes here and said, gee, I bet teachers would be great coaches, because if someone is a pretty good teacher, this is what really they do. They're bringing, the information out of the student, not necessarily giving them the answer, but drawing it out. They're not there, except for discipline, to be a boss. They're there to enhance learning, just as the word coach implies. Was that a good observation by me, or am I totally wrong?
It is a good observation, and I know a number of teachers that are very coach-like and do make great coaches. But teaching in itself and advising in itself is not coaching. For example, in Blue Point, if I'm teaching new facilitators or new coaches in the organization, I'm still pretty invested in what I want the outcome to be. And while a good teacher can be very coach-like, and a good advisor can as well, when you make that total shift to being the coach, you're actually shifting past being the teacher, past being the advisor, to being somebody who challenges, somebody who encourages, somebody who helps people see things differently, as opposed to delivering almost any kind of content at all.
Now, Greg, I once again would like our audience to know that today we're talking to the author of a book entitled The Master Coach. His name is Greg Thompson. And Greg, if people are getting interested in this and saying, gee, it makes sense, it sounds like it might be a lot easier on me and better for my troops, where can we get the book, and can you give us a website?
Certainly. You can purchase the book on Amazon or through our website, which is bluepointleadership.com. And I'm personally available to respond to any of your questions as well. You can reach me via my email, which is on that website as well.
And by the way, you mentioned Blue Point before. We have a town here, Blue Point, but when you're talking Blue Point, that's the name of your company, as you just said.
Yeah, that's correct. And I'm aware of the town. One of my partners is from Long Island.
Okay.
And I'm aware of the town, the brewery, and the oysters.
And none of those are you?
No.
Okay. So you're not an oyster eater, a drinker, or part of the town organization?
Correct.
Greg, what kind of feedback do you get from the people as they go through this? Is there a change? I don't know if when you go into a company, if it's a 2-week project, 3 days, 3 hours, 3 months, do they start out resistant? Do they say, this is great, it's making my job easier? Or do they say, this guy is just making life terribly hard?
Well, the response is all over the map, but the typical response is, well, I know what coaching is, and most of our workshops are a 2-day workshop, and then some follow-up work as well, and webinars, and then a follow-up workshop maybe 6 months after that. But most people come with good intentions and into the workshop. Now, we work for organizations that invest heavily in their leaders, and so General Motors, Microsoft, American Airlines, American Express, these kinds of wonderful organizations, and so most of these are men and women who have some familiarity with leadership concepts, but most of them think they've got it already. And so the big realization is, and I hear this very frequently, is, I've been doing this a long time, and I just recognize I didn't even know what coaching was.
Well, I guess that's great, though. They admit then that I thought they were going to say, I've been doing this a long time, and I can show you how to do it, Sonny. But no, they at least admit that they don't know these things.
Yeah, and the beauty of the work that we do is it's very experiential, and so typically they experience success in the classroom, and they leave with immediately usable approaches to coaching, and so that's pretty exciting. I'm thrilled when I see that, and I see that frequently.
You said something in your book, and I thought in a few words it encapsulated everything. You said coaching is having faith in others. Is that it in a real nutshell? It
is, and I take great risk when I share this with you, because it does sound somewhat unpatriotic, but much what real coaching is one of the challenges is it's a little un-American, because we in leadership roles tend to have this attitude: you show me you're trustworthy, I'll trust you. You show me you're a high performer, I'll treat you as a high performer. You show me you can get that job done, well, I'll give you that job. And it's this idea of show me. And really, coaching is believing somebody can do something before they've shown you. It's this idea that and quite frankly, we're at our best as parents when we do the same thing. When we have faith in our children before they've actually proven it to us that they can do that, is how we draw them up to a higher level of performance or responsibility.
And I guess, and you mentioned this in your book, that we really have to suspend judgment. And let's say a guy comes in, he's very handsome, and he looks like the managerial type. I mean, he would make any TV show or movie of the week as a manager, or in your case, a coach. So we say right away, gee, that person's perfect. Then we see the other fellow maybe a little sloppy, or someone who just doesn't look the role model. But the way I'm reading what you said, we have to suspend judgment, and we like to categorize things. So it's easy to say the first guy is handsome, he looks like a manager, the second person looks like a schlump, but that's not our job, is it?
Absolutely. And again, what's it's interesting about this is we're very transparent, and the way we see people, the regard in which we hold them, they usually know that. So people know if we think they're an A or B or a C or a D or a Z all the way down, and we all judge people. So this idea of being non-judgmental for the coach is a discipline. It is. You need to really be conscious about suspending that part of you, so you can simply see people at their very best.
Now, there's a saying in your book, and I'd love to get a few takeaways from every guest we have, every book, every author, and somehow I think this should be up on the wall of every company. Pessimism leads to weakness. Optimism leads to power. Can you talk about that?
Well, it is, and I'm trying to make it sound not just like a jingle, but thank you for reminding me of that. Is that, we all can find something wrong with anything, any one of us, any system, and in many ways, coaches are purveyors of a tomorrow that is better than today in some way. And so I'm an executive leadership coach. A big part of what I do as a coach is help people find a bigger, better story for themselves. And these are very successful men and women. And I've never yet seen somebody change to something bigger and better without a sense of optimism along with that. It's just we need to be energized by something, and often the coach is the source of that energy.
And the follow-up to that, and again, I have that marked off here, optimism drives us to action. And I think as leaders or bosses or supervisors, that's what we want all our people doing and taking that action. So if we can get them doing that and we're optimistic, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, in our last few seconds, tell us, if someone's hearing this and they say, this sounds pretty good till I can get the book, what should I do tomorrow when I walk into my doctor's office and I'm the main doctor or I'm the owner of the auto shop? How can they start using this theory?
Well, interesting. You should say that. Use that example. I have a book coming out later this year called "The Physician as Coach."
Okay.
We do a lot of work in the healthcare industry, and physicians have a particularly challenging but rewarding role when they function as a coach. If you could only do one thing, and you could only take one thing away, it would be this idea of have noble intention. Just whatever you're going to do in that conversation. Assume that there's some way the other person can leave the conversation better in some way. Maybe it's a word of encouragement. Maybe it's a challenge. Maybe it's a piece of feedback. Maybe you care enough about them to tell them the things that other people only say behind their back. But you're going to do something in that conversation that is going to be beneficial to that person.
Greg, we're just out of time, so before we hit the magic number on the clock, I want to thank you for being with us today and remind our audience, our guest has been Greg Thompson, the author of The Master Coach. Greg, thanks so much for being our guest today. We'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week at the same time when we'll continue our journey to success.